the next segment, it looks like, well, I'll tell you what the next segment was, and then you can comment on this one. But the next segment was Jericho and Pockets, and it looked like an ex
Jericho
over the hill WW Jericho, or not Jericho, but Jericho and Cassidy, rather. I'm sorry. Jericho and Cassidy. Pockets was later. But Jericho and Cassidy looked like an over the hill ex WWE guy doing an indie show against the guy at the wrestling school that sold the most tickets visually. And I'm sorry, but that is the visual component of this show, and the low rent look of a lot of the talent and the inexperience of a lot of the talent is why that a lot of people that may be flipping by and would watch a program with FTR versus SCU because they look like fucking stars and athletes is not going to because they think it's outlaw wrestling when they see Pockets, or they see the fucking dwarf, or they see the fucking goofy outlaw gimmicks, or they see poor Isiah Cassidy with his fucking the worst attire that any pro wrestler has ever worn on national television. That's what I'm talking about, the visual component. They don't make any new fans because people outside this bubble that they're in of 750 to 1,000 to 1 million people. And what was the rating on this one was another 850,000. And they beat NXT by the same 100 to 150,000. It's the same people. New fans ain't going to watch this because anybody that ever watched wrestling would look at this fucking half this show visually and go, what the fuck? I can see shit like this down at the grade school when they run the local outlaw show. And so the matches, we've got a string going on here in this program. The matches are really good and the promos are stupid. But we're about to break that string. Chris Jericho with all his heels against Isiah Cassidy with Mark Quinn and Matt Hardy, who is still not taking that time off. Did he not say 3 weeks ago, I'm going to go take some time off and get healthy from brain damage that he got from that fucking goofy match? And he has been on every TV show since, correct?
Perhaps he just meant he won't wrestle for a while.
But he's doing nothing. So when you've got a superstar, world-renowned Matt Hardy, and he gets injured, do tell him to go home. Because when he comes back and does something in 4 or 6 weeks or whatever, you can advertise it. It will mean something. He's just standing around the goddamn ring. And anyway, I'm going to tell you about this match real quick. It doesn't fucking help a guy as green and inexperienced as Isiah Cassidy to also be wearing that fucking clown suit. And this guy was put in a bad position here. He's a good athlete, but he needs a lot of work. He's green. He's in over his head. And he was exposed here. Instead of Chris Jericho having a good, solid, basic match and letting this guy look like he's really polished by not going above his head, instead Jericho, to be over with the cool kids, decides he's going to bump like a Super Bowl for this guy and have a goddamn alleged classic match doing all of the young kids shit. And it looked like, instead of a star-making performance for Isiah Cassidy, I'm sure the casual viewer might have looked at it that way, but it looked like a fucking WWE legend that was being paid to come to a local town and have a competitive match with the kid that sold the most tickets in the wrestling school. Because I've promoted a number of those matches, and these are what they look like in some games, except if you stop it. It was too much. And Jericho, he even got beat up by fucking Luther, the Mud Show Uncle Fester in the crowd. And finally, at one point, did you see Cassidy gave Jericho the world's first ever shoot senton off the top rope, where he just landed directly on him with no... So the previous match was 4 veteran professionals, and this match and it's not fair to Cassidy. he shouldn't be on national television right now. In the tag team, you can hide it a little bit. But what the fuck? When they went through the break and came back with heat on Cassidy, go back and watch this part. Cassidy threw gut shots. That's why I said, was this live? Because those gut shots would have been edited out of any taped program I was ever responsible for. Because it was embarrassing, so it had to be live. And remember, I used to do a TV show from a wrestling school. And then Cassidy made a happy feet comeback and hit Jericho with a springboard stunner, and Jericho had to grab Cassidy and roll him back on top of himself for the cover. Jericho covered himself with the other man's body. For business, this should have been a good, solid match where Cassidy got some offense, but Jericho got some heat. Cassidy got a bit of a comeback, and Jericho shut him down with his finish, because Jericho should still be trying to redeem himself as a main event talent after being embarrassed publicly and professionally, as well as in storyline, by all the fucking matches with pockets.
It's not just the matches with Orange Cassidy. You can't tell me from watching AEW in 2020 that Chris Jericho's not a comedy wrestler.
Well, no, I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying he doesn't need to be.
But it's what he is all year, the entire year, from the feud with the Drone to Orange Cassidy to the skits with MJF.
But he's taking bumps and taking these moves. He's just not doing it in a smart way for business. He's either trying to show that he's cool enough to work with pockets, or he's trying to give, like I said, one of these kids a star-making performance. But Tony Khan's money is being wasted on Jericho because Jericho's now one of the boys instead of the other way around. It's not, here's Chris Jericho, superstar, and then there's the red, so that he can lift them up. It's that he's blending into the pack. Anyway, then Jericho finally does hit him after all of that with his finish. Imagine that. We could have taken the shortcut, got the same place. And then Jericho and Sammy Hagar, the big MMA Bellator shoot fighter, jump on Luther Fester and some outlaw luchador in the crowd and get their asses kicked there too and retreat. The luchador guy couldn't have been 5 feet fucking tall. And this Luther does look like famed character actor Jackie Coogan, in all seriousness, playing Uncle Fester. Those two guys, to an audience who hasn't watched wrestling in 5 years. Let's say there's some people who haven't watched wrestling in 5 years, and they switch over and they see, well, there's Chris Jericho, and hey, I remember that Hager guy used to do that We the People stuff on, and look who they're fighting. A 50-year-old bald-headed fucking member of the Addams family and a fucking white kid cosplaying as a luchador. Let's switch the channel, Maud. Anyway, that's what that was. What'd you think? I don't know.
I thought it sucked. I didn't like it at all. The luchador with Luther is the guy. Remember I told you on the pre-show for the pay-per-view there was a really awful Jelly Nutella match with him and another guy who looked like he had no business. That was the guy. That was the guy. They just had the sloppiest, worst match.
Oh,